Welcome to Hindustan Times. I am with the Superboys of Malegaon and the two superwomen behind that as well. Guys, thank you and welcome to HT.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's the first year of promotions and we'll start out with some different questions because I know आप लोगों को 40-50 interviews करने होते हैं. So let's not ask the same things all over again. So I'll try to be as different as possible. But I'll begin with the two makers, the people behind the scenes. That what was your introduction to Nasir Sheikh's story and to the cinema of Malegaon? How did that happen in your life?
For me, it happened with the documentary and the Superman of Malegaon, and I was completely fascinated with that. Then I read up on him, and then I bumped into him at the Ocean Film Festival in Delhi, and this was, I think, a year or two after the documentary, and I was there, and I saw him across the room, and he recognized me, I recognized him, and we started talking, and then we made friends, we stayed in touch.
And then he told you उन्होंने आपके father की सारी films copy की है.
Yes. And then we stayed in touch, and then the more I got to know him, I realized that his personal story is very, very interesting, very beautiful, very heartbreaking, and his story goes beyond just the making of the film. So that's where it started for me.
So for you, it was something similar, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I heard about it was from Zoya. I hadn't seen the documentary when she did. I watched it much later. But yeah, it was when Zoya told me about it.
And that's where the genesis was, like you mentioned at the trailer launch also, that this film is much different from the documentary because that is about the making of one film. This is Nasir and the Malegaon film industry's story as a whole, I suppose.
That and, the parameters of a documentary and a feature are very different. So we do have all the tools of fiction to play with, and kind of what we're trying to do is, again, not give a historic account of what happened, but give a heartfelt feeling and essence of what happened.
And of course, this life has a lot of drama, so you don't even have to put stuff and dramatize, or some of it, of course, you have to for the sake of making it into an entertaining, engaging film.
Yeah.
But the lives had drama, right?
Tremendous drama, and honestly, we haven't taken, we haven't told complete, we haven't made up anything.
Okay.
It's, it may not be historically accurate. Maybe the events didn't work out. One thing came before, but we've put it after. We might have combined a person or two together, because you have to have some kind of parameter also. So yeah, we've taken those kind of liberties, but really everything is taken from his life. And it is a truly inspirational story.
I'll come to the actors, and all of you have worked in films which are non-conformist to the so-called mainstream, whether it's Titli or White Tiger or Mukkabaz. Did it help relate to that aspect of hum kuch karenge apna karenge, which Nasir says in the film as well, that you guys have always been doing your own thing? I'll start with Shashank for that matter.
Doing your own thing. I think it's kuch alag karenge na. More than that, it's just trying to be honest to what you want to do, the stories you like, the films that you want to make or you like watching. I don't think it's a conscious decision to do something different or to move away from a pack. I think art is more of a feeling. It's not like it's not a race. It's not a it's not a category. So it's not a conscious effort. That's all I can say. I look for a good script and a good director and people who want to tell stories because they love telling stories.
Right.
And that's my first.
So that conscious call not there. Others, for you, any different?
Exactly what Shashank said. I think it's art is very deeply personal, and the choices that we are making right now, and if I should speak for myself actually, that I'm making right now is basically, I think the way I grew up. I grew up in erstwhile Bihar, Jharkhand. Grew up around a lot of like crime stories, real crime stories happening around me, and that's like the first kind of filmmaker that actually started appealing to me was Anurag Kashyap.
Right.
And then, Zoya, Vikram Motwane, Reema, like these were the kind of filmmakers I grew up watching. And realism always attracted me a lot. So I think, as Shashank put it so beautifully, I think it's just personal. Personally, the stories that you connect to, it's not a conscious effort to do anything different.
Vineet, anything to add to that?
See, लोगों ने कहा है कि life is about your choices. एंड अभी एक लास्ट इंटरव्यू में जोया ने बोला था कि गो एंड फिगर आउट द अपॉर्चुनिटी एंड ग्रैब इट, बट व्हाट काइंड ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी, बिकॉज देयर सो मेनी थिंग्स. अब कुछ भी बुफे लगा है कुछ भी, क्योंकि वो भी लाइफ में एक वक्त आता है
तो मैं बहुत सोच समझ के मैं सुंदर कहानियों का हिस्सा बनना चाहता हूँ। वक्त लगेगा, ये पता है, लेकिन धीरे धीरे वो बेस थोड़ा मजबूत हो जाता है। तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि खूबसूरत कहानियाँ हों, अच्छे लोग हों, ताकि जिनके साथ काम करूँ तो दिल भी खुश रहे, रोज़ काम करके चैन से सो सकूँ।
सेट पे थोड़ा सुकून भी हो।
हाँ, तो वो कॉन्शियस डिसीजन रहता है, तो उसके चक्कर में थोड़ा पिटता भी हूँ बहुत। पर्सनल लाइफ में बड़ी चोटें लगती हैं, बट दैट्स फाइन, क्योंकि जब फिल्म बन के आती है ना, तो ऐसा लगता है कि सब सब अच्छा हो गया। जो किया था वो सब
अंत
अच्छा,
भला तो सब भला।
और मुझे उससे और मजबूती मिलती है एज अ पर्सन। तो वो प्रयास हमेशा रहता है, और इस बार तो मतलब लिटरली हम किसी का सपना ही जी रहे हैं ये फिल्म।
बिल्कुल।
तो किसी के सपनों का हिस्सा बन जाना मतलब कितना ही खूबसूरत है।
Zoya, I have a question for you. Is that realism in Indian cinema for a long time was relegated to the sidelines. We always considered those art films or parallel films, and that distinction had existed. Now it's getting into what we call the mainstream commercial as well. Bigger filmmakers, bigger actors. When I say bigger, I mean the box office draws and the more popular ones are coming into it. Would you say it's been too late, or would you say it's been a welcome change?
I don't think anything is ever too early, too late, you know, in the sense like, see, different cultures go to the cinema for different reasons.
Right.
And we have gone to the cinema, and I mean, even our theatre, which went into cinema, was a form of entertainment. And we go in there to forget our lives. We go in there to see things that are larger than us. We go in there to see life working out
A little
and
bit of
everything
escape.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's escapist, and that's fine because that's what people want, and that's okay. But I don't like. I don't have any problem with any kind of film. I just want it all to be able to coexist.
Right.
And the more the audience gets, the more they will sample. So they will go and see that big blockbuster, that big tentpole film, and they would like to see something that would also resonate with them in a different way. We just have to make space for it to coexist. And actors, I feel now want to do, because the lines are blurring, and you have to give that to what satellite came in, and then with the streaming coming in, we are seeing stories from all over the world. When you look at the streaming platform, you're seeing your lead actors playing very great characters, and you're enjoying that. And for the actors, it's enjoyable to play different, to inhabit different people and minds. So it's a natural progression, and it's happening when it was meant to happen, you know.
Also, you touched upon a very nice point that actors are willing to experiment now, no matter how settled, established, or big they are. That's been one welcome change, probably due to OTT, probably due to more international exposure for the audiences, and writers also writing those parts, which had happened in the 70s and 80s, stopped in the 90s and 2000s, and sort of restarting now that we're seeing commercial actors as well. And for heroes to be from smaller towns like Malegaon. That is a welcome change in itself, right? That we can have our heroes who are among us. What do you say to that, Reema?
Yeah, I mean, I think what, to add to what Zoya said, it's about having a thriving industry and having all kinds of films, all kinds of heroes or anti-heroes. It's about a very large film and a very small film coexisting, and if they're good, both do well.
Right.
I think that's what's important, and that's what the stage is set for now, and that's a great thing.
Complementing instead of competing.
Yeah, also we are the largest film industry, film producing nation in the world. You know, we are the largest film industry in the world. Why should everybody make one type of film?
Of course, exactly.
It would be ridiculous.
It would be completely.
We have to make every type of film. Now, I may not like this and you may not like my. That doesn't matter. Every film should be made. Every kind of person should be represented.
Yeah, and there are things like, before the OTT, it was the multiplex. Like in 2007 when my first film came out, it was unheard of, but I believe something like 50 new directors debuted that year. And that happened because of the advent of the multiplexes. So, as you have these kind of, new parameters coming in, that also changes the scape of the industry.
And are you okay with these distinctions? Because we've always had distinctions. Ki, this is theatrical, this is OTT, this is single screen, this is multiplex. Are you okay with those distinctions as a maker?
I mean, I find them very reductionist because I don't think that's how you need. Because eventually, it's about making, doing good work. It is yes, there's a commercial aspect to it, but filmmaking is art.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
course, it's very
so I
creative.
think that when you put terms like this, it anyways is very
It
reductionist.
boxes, and
Yeah,
you're
but
a
that
producer
happens,
as well.
Yeah, that also happens because people can't afford to go to the cinema for everything. So then they choose what they want to go to the cinema for and what they want to see.
And that's
so
how it
that's
works.
not something we are doing actually. So there's a larger
Ecosystem,
force
yeah,
at work,
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
ecosystem at work there. So, I mean, ideally, I think even our population is a film going population. We enjoy going to the theatre. It's a community experience, you know. So, if you can afford it, you'll do it more. So, I don't think that they are not going because of any reason. I mean, it's available at home, and if it comes to, it's going to come. That's the thing. But you don't want that.
Yeah.
And I want the audience. I mean, you know, they want to see new talent. They want to see different stories.
Right.
At least that's what they keep saying.
Of course.
On social media and things. Then they should also go out and endorse
Support,
that.
yeah, exactly.
They need to support that, because when they support that, more of it will happen.
I think that is
Yeah,
what.
which I
yeah,
mean, to
please.
add to that, to be fair, any film, whether it's
Yeah.
your big blockbuster or it's an alternative kind of film, any film that has good word of mouth has really not done well. And I think that is the important thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think filmmakers can shed those inhibitions and notions, because that has existed for some time, right?
What?
That only a certain kind of cinema would work in the theaters.
No, see, that also keeps changing. Right now, we are also coming out of COVID. We are coming out of the whole pandemic, the lull of that, and there was a shift in that time. There was a shift to watching streaming
Right.
in that time. So it will take its time to settle, you know. And see, when TV came, people thought cinema died.
Right.
When satellite came,
Right.
they said cinema died.
Even VCR for that matter, yeah, yeah.
Everybody. Now streaming has come. They're like cinema. Their cinema is not going anywhere. There is nothing to come. They will all coexist.
Yeah.
You cannot interchange these experiences. If I go to see a horror movie in a whole theater and I'm watching it, it's a very different experience. And I'm sitting alone in my house and watching it on my laptop. It's a very different experience. So those things are not interchangeable, and it will find its feet again.
I think the re-release proves that whatever film that might be, like people going to watch Interstellar in IMAX is a big sort of
Yeah.
message to that, you know,
Yeah.
there is still that theatrical audience who wants to go watch a
Yeah.
film with 700 people,
Yeah.
because film watching for our generation has been a communal experience.
Yeah.
We want to watch with people, and आप लोगों के साथ भी वही था, you all of you have watched films in single screen theaters as
Yeah.
growing up. You
Yeah.
know, you're all from smaller towns here. I come from Meerut in UP. So that single screen experience will not go away. That theatrical experience will not go away, as
Yeah.
Zoya rightly pointed
Yeah.
out. I have a question for Adarsh here, as an actor, as someone who has seen his films go international as well. There had been a long-held perception of the kind of films India made, because we made diverse cinema, but there was a perception in the West कि यहाँ एक ही तरह की फिल्में बनती हैं. The singing and dancing around trees trope was always there. Now we are seeing Indian films that are rooted. They may not be exactly copies of what West is making, rooted in our own language and yet slightly more real, as a Superboys of Malegaon or a Lapata Ladies. Do you think that perception is shifting?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the last 20-25 years, when more of our films have been traveling to more festivals, there's also like more people talking about it. There's better marketing. Like 25 years ago, even if an Indian film was going, nobody was talking about it because it wasn't being marketed that
Right,
well.
right.
But I think with like the advent of marketing coming in, publicity coming in, I feel like films that weren't getting the due so many years ago are getting it. Like, you know, they hosted like this screening of All We Imagine Is Light, and everybody
Right.
showed up, and like, you know, I feel like, and that's what you need. You need like the bigger filmmakers to endorse smaller films, because it's only when that happens is when there'll be an ecosystem that gets created, and such films will get promoted more. Audience will actually take the effort of also coming and watching those kind of films in the theaters. So I definitely feel like there's been a change. And even when I was working on Alien this year, like a lot of people knew a lot more about, like my co-actress Essie David, who's like an Australian legend. She loves Lagan. And I think I told you, right? She wouldn't stop talking about Lagan. Like every time she would meet me and we had few scenes together, she would ask me so many questions about Lagan. Like I worked on Lagan.
Yeah. But you're a representative
so-
of that industry, that for her.
Sorry?
You're a representative of that
Yeah, yeah,
industry
of course,
for her.
of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. I get it.
But she knew this. She phonetically knew the songs, so she kept humming "Ore Chori" and "Ganan Ganan." It was so funny, an Australian woman doing all this. But it's incredible. So I really feel like there has been a massive shift in like how people perceive.
And I think the next shift should be that people should not say, oh, this doesn't look like an Indian film. Which happens
Right.
to a lot of, like, I heard it from a few Westerners about All We Imagine or something, that, oh, this is not like the typical Indian film. And as I define the typical Indian film, because I haven't been able to crack
be
that.
fair, I mean, as the Hindi cinema, to be fair, we have songs as part of our narrative.
Right.
It is our film language. It has been over, and it's unique.
Yeah, it is
It's
very
a very unique form of communicating and how we use storytelling in cinema, and it's fantastic. So they identify that type of thing with the Hindi film because we have a particular language which is
Right.
unique to us, which is beautiful. But what he said is also right. Those are also the films that have gotten distribution. So in their countries, that's what they see because
Right.
those are the films that have been distributed, widely distributed.
Whether it's
you
a
know.
Monsoon Wedding or a My Name is
so,
Khan,
So,
yeah.
once we start getting distribution for a different kind of language of film, they are going to be like, oh, this is different from what we are known
The perception will
for.
change.
Yeah, and it will change.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, kind of stories. You know, all stories don't lend itself to I feel like a
big
global
audience, yeah.
audience. You know, I think why with Superboys of Malegaon we kind of are going with this huge worldwide international release is because I think the story in itself, though it's really specific, it's talking to a global audience. You know.
Because it's a love for storytelling in cinema. And it's a love
No,
for...
it's an underdog story.
Underdog story, of
It's
course.
about
Yeah.
people against all odds,
odds.
achieving a dream. And that speaks
That
to
speaks to everyone.
99% of humanity. Everybody has a dream that they're trying against all odds to
Like,
kind of
from
achieve.
Rocky to Forrest Gump, everything is an
Yeah.
underdog story, right?
Yeah.
Vineet, a question for you. When you play someone who is based on reality, there are two ways of going about it. एक तो आपके पास स्क्रिप्ट है पूरी जिसमें वो किरदार पूरा लिखा हुआ है, दूसरा वो इंसान है जिससे आप मिल सकते हैं. हाउ डू यू गो अबाउट दैट? कोई बैलेंस होता है या आप इन दोनों को मिला के कुछ करते हैं?
सी डायरेक्टर कैसे देख रहे हैं, आप किस तरीके से उसे एग्जीक्यूट करने की, मतलब आपके ख्याल में वो क्या है, मैं क्या सोच रहा हूँ वो बाद में आता है.
राइट.
रियल लाइफ में जो है जितना मटेरियल इकट्ठा हो सकता है वो करता हूँ, बट सारी तैयारियाँ करके मैं सरेंडर कर देता हूँ डायरेक्टर को. फिर ये नहीं होता कि ये करना है, ये धीरे से कर दूंगा, क्योंकि धीरे से कुछ होता नहीं, डायरेक्टर को सब दिखता है. डायरेक्टर लाइक रीमा, मुझे याद है कि अगर एक प्रॉप सेट पे कुछ गलत लगा है तो किसी की नज़र पड़े चाहे ना पड़े, फ्रेम लगा नहीं कि आवाज़ एक दबंग की आवाज आती है पीछे से कि ये किसने प्लेस किया, यू नो. और ये मैंने गोल्ड में भी देखा है, बिकॉज गोल्ड हम
Referring to the samosas on set. No, I had to bring out because, you know, as a prop, we had keema samosas. And we were rehearsing. So obviously they had not placed the food in for the rehearsal takes. And suddenly for the first take, a plate of Punjabi samosas came and were placed in frame. And I was like, these are Punjabi samosas. They're not keema samosas. So, yeah,
That
art
attention to
department
detail.
and I think some ADs and my DA had to, and it was a night shoot.
Oh God.
So they had to run to the kitchen and start making keema samosas.
And then they had to make vegetarian keema samosas because I'm vegetarian. So they
But
had to
you
make-
know, I mean, you have to get it right.
in that
authenticity is
detail,
really, yeah.
because film making is the, मैं तो जो लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं ना, कह रहे यार फिल्म वाले हैं, मैं तो चाहता हूँ प्लीज कम,
आओ काम करो.
2 दिन बिताओ हमारे साथ.
See the work that goes.
Yeah. It has become a trend to point out कि ये film theatrical release हो रही है या OTT पे हो रही है. 5 years ago this distinction did not exist, but it has become a big deal all of a sudden कि this is coming to theaters, this is coming to OTT. And like Zoya pointed out, on social media a lot of people say हमें अलग चीजें देखनी है. We want to watch new stuff, we want to watch different stuff. But as soon as something different is slated for the theaters, they're like, चलेगी या नहीं चलेगी? Should it have been an OTT? Your reaction to the audience is there.
I need to think
Alright,
about this. Do you wanna?
This is a tricky space. I don't know why we as people are falling into the trap of इस फिल्म ने कितना कमाया, उस फिल्म ने कितना कमाया. You know, did you like a film?
Yeah.
Did you not like a film? Did you watch it in the train station? Did you watch it in a plane? You watched it in the hall? Wow. We have started sort of dividing this audience in this way, or dividing this craft in this way. I don't believe this is the correct direction. I also think distributors have a part to play because of this, because they put money into this and they want money back.
Right, of course.
And that ends up being part of the press. I wish, but as people, we step back from this and we just start loving stories for what they are and not concern ourselves कि ये 4 रुपए बनाएगी या 15, यार ये सुपर हिट है या नहीं. आपको पसंद आई, प्लीज आइए हॉल देखने. आपको नहीं पसंद आई तो मत आइए, माफ करिए, अगली बार देखिएगा. And so this is where I stand here in this. I'm not clear. This is, cinema is 100 years old. We were talking about, will it go this way or that? I don't know. Cinema is 100 years old. We don't have set distribution parties. We're figuring this art out. Dance is 7,000 years old. Painting is 35,000 years old. We started categorizing it as this and that.
Yeah.
Cinema we categorize as happy, sad, scary cinema, happy cinema, family cinema. So we are understanding cinema. We're understanding how to make cinema. We're understanding different voices around the world of cinema. And by getting used to it, like, the Americans will see more Indian films, they'll understand where Indians are coming from. The Indians will see more, Palestinian films, they'll understand where they are coming from. It's growth, it's cycle, it's evolution, and we start to, intellectualize this to an extent where there's no room for it. It's only been 100 years.
Right. Adarsh?
Yeah, I think eventually what matters is how a film makes you feel, irrespective of where it's releasing. I feel like I'm guilty of that too, what you're saying. Like there's certain times when something releases and I'll be like, theek hai, I'll watch it when it comes out.
It's natural.
I'm one of the crowd, but I want to change that, and you gotta put a conscious effort to change that. And because otherwise what will happen is that there'll be only a certain kind of cinema that will keep coming, and as they both said that there needs to be a diversity in cinema, and most importantly, cinema needs to be, every story needs to be deeply personal, because otherwise what's the difference, right? Like if every film was the same, was made the same way, had the same tone, had the same language, the same actors, how would it be an enriching experience? For me, cinema is also, as he said, like a window to look into another person's life, about their culture, about their life, about their state, their language, everything. And that gives me an opportunity. So when a small film, in terms of budget, in terms of production value, in terms of the actors that are involved, doesn't get that support, then the space to create that cinema starts closing down. Which is why it's very important to support that. And sometimes it's just important to go and support it for the risk that it's taking.
Yes.
For the attempt that it's tried to make. It's not necessary that every time somebody makes a film, when they don't have the resources, will end up being a great film. But it's still important to go and support it.
I think the intent should be supported and not always the execution. Sometimes it's important to support the execution as well, but intent does play an important role, particularly in this post-COVID scenario where people are hesitant and skeptical, however you could call it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
This was a lovely conversation, and
Yeah,
all the
thank
best
you.
for Superboys of Malegaon.
Yeah, this was a good chat actually.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.